HETASP number 5. This is the fifth one of these IHMIG mas mabuwag IHMIG in the autumn understanding. We went first through the grandchildren or yourself, then your brothers and sisters, and then we went through the grandfather, grandmother, the relationship there. Again, there's 4 of them, the pillars. Well, the great grandmother, grandfather is Wikod, and then from there, your father's father is your Wask, and your father's mother is your Kak, and then on the mother's side, her father, your father's mother's your Bob, and then the last one, your mother's mother, is your Huur. And then you went first on the father's side and went through the whole thing in the clanship system, and then on the other side, the mother's side. But there's some other stuff, Mom Oit, that there's a history to some of this, Mahas Mama Bachuchu, and how we understand things as far as Maboim. Again, IHMIG is like when you call somebody something, a relationship, and they call you back, whatever, that's what IHMIG is. So like if somebody was a worker and they would call their boss Nimariam, and then the boss would call Nishipkandam, you know, like that. That's the relationship. And so actually I know a man and a woman that when they go to work, that the guy is the boss, and when they get home, she is the husband. So it's kind of like the same people, but their mode changes depending on, again, the setting. So just depends. Or like you say, a teacher, Yamashchamta, and so then the person will respond, you know, like your student, Umashchamtam, Yamashchamtam, you teach me, Umashchamtam, you guys are the ones going to school. So just a little change there. So it must be like that. It's the exchange between the two. I don't know how you would, however the relationship is, but I do know that that the easiest way to remember is just your Cis and your Rupich, because those are just, you know, you're older and you're younger. But sometimes the Cis is somebody who is in a higher place, like maybe your district chairman or, you know, whatever, then he will be the Cis because he's got more authority. So it just depends on how you see it. But again, Cis really means kind of like the older or the greater, and the other one is the younger or the lesser. So that's just the definition change. And then we talk about the married people. Married people, like, you know, how do you say my husband or my wife? The most common way they say is Nyakurika, which is kuri is for a man. My man, kuri. Because again, kuri doesn't mean old man, it means older man. So kuri, the man, Nyakurika. And the other one would say Nyaokska for my wife. Nyaokska. So if I tell my Okska Nyaokska, then she would say Nyakurika. That's the IHMIG between the two. Nyaokska, Nyakurika. But there's a lot of people that, because of the marriage thing, they think that because they don't have a piece of paper that they're not really Kuriga and Okska, which there are many words for autumn with this relationship. One of the ones that they use a lot, because of that, that some people, most people, are not married, they're common law married. So they say, Niwam Kikam. Wam means together, Kikam. Ki is a house or a place where you live. Kikam, the one who lives with me. Niwam Kikam, and then that's like both genders. It's not like one way to say a male or a female. It's both genders. When Niwam Kikam, itore Niwam Kikam. This is the one that lives with me. But you can say that your son, your daughter, your grandma is also your womb kikam because they live in the same house. But you know, as far as man, woman, that's how they say a lot of times. That's how they say, you know, that womb ki. I remember a long time ago when we got married, Luke Jose from North Comlex said, ito din yung key coming in. Pa mo yung key mo open you get them off, and then everybody started laughing. You get them off with them, and then I started laughing. Who get them means beside. Who get lays beside me. You get them off with them. That was funny. So mas aga. And then there's these words that came over, a lot of Spanish and Yaqui words that came over. One of them, one of those words from Aga is kuna, kuna. And in autumn, we changed that a little bit. We say cuñara, cuñara. So it's kind of like the spouse. They go to cuñara, cuñara. You heard that a lot, mostly on the west side. The cuñara is my, the cuñara is he's the one that is this that we're together, kind of like that. Because I guess they don't last long. That's why they don't want to say that. The other one is when you say boyfriend, girlfriend. There's a lot of ways to say that, but the most common way is to say maishpa, maishpa, maishpa. Ma'ish means to cover. So you like if you have a bowl of something and you have a lid to cover it, that's called the ma'ishpa, the lid. So okay, so they call that this person is they're together, and this one is the one that's on the ma'ishpa. Sometimes they say girl, sometimes they say boy. It's it doesn't matter what gender, but it's just the word ma'ishpa. That's how you say girlfriend, boyfriend. That's how commonly people say girlfriend, boyfriend. In fact, there's a thing that that autumn say that if somebody sneezes and they're not sick and there's whatever, maybe there's pollen in the air, and somebody sneezes, they'll say that your secret admirer is thinking about you, or one of your secret admirers is thinking about you. So it might be that special person over there, it might be somebody else. Then, so if I'm there and my maishpa sneezes and I'm like, say, who's that? Who's that? I'm not the one thinking about you. Who's that? So again, it's just a play on when somebody sneezes. And when we were young, we used to say, hey, mchukto, mchukto. Hey, kudim mchukto. Who's thinking about you? Who's thinking about that? You're hey, so yeah, so that's one of the ways maishpa. That's how they would say, like, again, so but there's another one to go. There's a lot of stories and different things. So there's one that that we use that that the coyote, I guess there's a story Mamayage, this guy that he said that kahyo wapo. Kahyo wapo. Kahyo is your leg and your wapo is your fur or your hair on your leg. So that's what was told to me, is that the coyote said that I know you're related to me somehow, but I just can't think of how you're related to me. Say my mother's side or my father's side, or how far are you related? But so I'm just gonna say you're my kayawapo. You're just a hair on my leg. And so after that, people just say that. How much about and all that? People say, I don't know. He's related to kayawapo. He's somehow related to kayawapo. He's part of me, my body, but don't know. So yeah, lots of potential. Like I say a chuchum. So there's that again that people say a lot of times. The other IHMIG, there's this thing that they have. They're called the godparents. A long time ago, before the church came here, before anybody else came here, just thought them only. They used to take the babies. It was usually the parents and the baby, and they would go take the baby and get the clay, and so most of the time it was because everybody lived in the same place, and the father, the mother, the baby, usually like about a month, or I know when I was told I received the clay 2 weeks after I was born. Some people do it like 2 months later. Trying to do it early when the baby's still young. So on the real, like a month, at least a month, more each you could beat, and you find some person that does the beat, and then you get the clay, and then the mama, and then everything's settled. That's the autumn baptism. But it's a secret. I mean, not a secret, but it's like a personal. Um, how do you say, a personal ceremony between two people. So there's no dance, and there's no like feeding afterwards or whatever. It's just the baby receives the clay and the parents receive the clay, and that's it. No, none of this other stuff. Which I think that when you look at church baptism, sometimes people think, oh, you have to do something, and so they do that. But the autumn thing is totally different. But so there's another thing when a girl becomes of age, and she gets that ceremony, the girl's turning of age ceremony, coming of age ceremony. There's usually a godparent, a godmother, and a godfather. But I mean, I'm just using the word godparent, godmother. But and they're not called that. It's not the IHMIG. They call it nitat for the girl, because usually, most of the time, it's supposed to be the mother's older sisters or cousins. Those are the ones that are supposed to do, like take the girl in and teach her stuff, talk to her and make her work and show her how to do things, and don't do it this way, and what's good, and how about you? And so that was the way it was. Chimukit, thousands of years, that's what Autumn did for and then after that, then it's the god, the wife or the mother's older sisters or cousins. That's how it used to be. So they called it nitat because, again, when you look at the family tree system, when you look on the mother's side, the mother's older brother is Chus, and then the mother, the female, the mother's older sister is nitat. So that name was kept to Gihigodatata, so that's why she's the one that's taking care of her in the in the ceremony. But what happened was, after a while, the Catholic Church came in, and they brought a lot of changes. One of the things that Mabagdra baptized, and it was adult baptisms, and then it was infant baptisms. For a long time, it was just adults, and then Koyamaak, the church fathers told people that was the Catholic belief at the time. The Baltimore Catechism. They said that if a person is not baptized, then they're not going to the regular heaven. They go to a place over here called limbo. We call it purgatory. And the best definition I have is the outest, the farthest, like right at the edge of heaven. That's purgatory right there. And so the people are right there waiting to get in. So you have to pray for them to get in. So what happens is that when they were baptizing adults, they said, what about our child? And then they said, well, if a child doesn't die before they get baptized, we better baptize them because we want them to go into heaven. That's what people said. So they started baptizing the infants. So a baby was born, and they would take them to get the clay, and then they would take them to the priest, and the priest would do baptism. Very simple. And so, because it was a Juchkam, and the Spanish version came in first into the HETASP. They used the Spanish names for, like the Godfather, Padrino. What do Autumn call it? We call the Godmother Yatat, but that's an IHMIG anyway. The older mothers, older sisters, cousins. But in Juchkam, it's the mother's side is different, but yet we still keep the tat. That's what we call our godmothers, matat. But your Paulin is taken off of that word, padrino. Paulin, padrino, Paulin. That's how Autumn became, and that's what they call it, a masma'im. Niwakona, your wako is to wash you or to baptize you. Niwakona to your godchildren, and then they would say Nyatad or Nyapaurin. That's where those came in. And again, there's a thing that they call in a lot of In the Catholic Church, there's only one baptism, and after you receive that baptism, that's it. That's, you know, you're supposed to be a child of Prince of Peace, you know, they're supposed to go to heaven because Jesus is inside, you know, Jesus with you. You got baptized. So, but if you weren't, you know, then you weren't gonna go with everybody else where they're supposed to go, where all the big children grows, you know. And I remember there's some cemeteries that I remember that there's some people that, okay, here's the cemetery and there's a fence, and there's some people buried in another small cemetery, you know. And I asked that question, why are those people separate over there? And the answer was that those people were the ones that were not baptized, so they're not part of the group that is baptized. And there's a number of cemeteries throughout the nation where you go and you'll see that there's some burials outside, you know. Those are those ones that they said that are going to limbo, and they're not really with the church because they weren't baptized. So what happened was, mom would have a birth of a baby and then take the baby to get the beat. After they receive the beat, then they go over and then they go to father and they get baptized. Because if they don't get baptized, they're going to go to limbo. Limbo. No, I want my child to be with me, not limbo. So, but the thing was that because ODHAM communities were way spread out, way back in the 1600s, 1700s, these priests used to come around with their horses, you know, a horseback or a donkey or whatever, and they would go, you know, like around to like Sanavir and go all the way up down the river, all the way Marana, and then all the way to Gila River, and then come down to like Gila Bend, Kohat, and then Choo Choo, and then all the way White Horse Pass, and then North Comb Lake, and then come down to Anagam, San Rosa, and up there towards Covered Wells, and then go that way, and you know, go all the way around and then they get over there, and during that time, like about 3 months later or 6 months later, another priest would head out. So a priest is coming, but it's not usually the same one, but a priest with consecrated hands. Again, that's what they believe. So the priest would come. So if a baby is born, they'd have to wait for the priest to come. But there was a lot of SIDS, a lot of crib death during those times, in those olden days. So people had to think, I don't want my baby to go to limbo. What do we do? And then the baby dies, and the mom's real sad because she got baptized and the baby's not going to. So what they did was, because there was people that came from that side, from the Church Kamjot, to move into to the ODHAM Jot, and the priests gave them the authority that if baby is born and the person wants to get the baby baptized, they will do an emergency baptism. That's still in the book so much. You can still do an emergency baptism if you're a Christian. So what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to get water and say, I baptize you in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. And that's generally it. So like in emergencies, you can do that. So that's what they were taught. But they said, we're not going to be able to do a mass because Father's not going to be there. And so they said at the time, and still the kind of like the sacred beliefs or the strong belief that the rosary is the second strongest prayer after the mass. So people sometimes, if they can't go to mass, they just do a rosary, and because they can't, but it has to be like, I don't want to go, it's way over there, or it's too, you know, it's kind of should be like when you're sick or something, then, or maybe your car broke down or whatever, you really can't go to mass, then you can do a rosary. And so they pulled their rosaries and you know, my own. So here's my rosary Dora made for me, and you know, so this is what they would do. Is they would do the rosary, and on the like halfway through the rosary, either the last decade, then they would get the water and they would spill it on the baby, and say, I baptize you, and then after that continue the rosary to the end. So that's just a 50 bead rosary. So they would do that, and so they thought, okay, so if my baby is born and I do the rosary and we you know, the baby is okay, but when Father comes, then you're supposed to take the baby to get the priest baptism, because that was just supposed to be an emergency in case the baby died. But if the baby didn't die, still baptized, but you take it to Father, and then he would have to record it and say, okay, this was emergency baptism because maybe he wasn't going to come for another 5 months. So that's what they did for a long time. You know, all these priests being HETASP. There was no vehicles at the time, and again, the horses and the mules and the wagons were there, and Father would come like every 4 or 6 months, and so they had to wait for Mass. But after a while, there was a lot of priests that came in. Like in the 1930s, 40s, there was a lot of priests over there at Tapawa. The whole place was full of priests, and they could go all out over the reservation, and so that kind of slowed down and stopped, except for some of the communities. They continued that because Father didn't really go over there because there was, you know, not many. They were expected to go to the churches in the big communities, so a lot of them continued their rosaries. And so there's a time that I've heard these people, they would have a child, and they would have godmother and godfather, and then they would baptize. The priest would do a baptism. He would pour the water and say the thing, and the child is baptized. Okay, now it's not going to go to limbo, but something happens. The mother, the godparents break up, or one of them dies. So when one of them dies, then they say, oh, the child needs say like if the man died, then the people will say, oh, the child needs a father, a godfather, especially if they're a male. But in the church, it only requires one witness. But you know that's how ODHAM did things back. So they would redo the baptism, but they can't go to Father because Father will not rebaptize. You only need one time, and that's it. You know. So what happened is the medicine man started telling, okay, you do the rosary prayer, and then you do that, but have this man standing in during that time, and then that will be like another rebaptism. So you're doing it over again, because again, Father only does it one time, and then that's up to you. So then they would do that, and then after that, it started becoming like something like if a man and a woman broke apart, or you know they got mad at each other and went their separate ways. So then they would say, oh, the child is feeling bad because his godparents are, you know, not together, and so we need to redo it again. So whoever that lady is with, or whoever that man is with, then they would redo it. Well, that's why they call it motam and the wako. Motam means to do it over again, or over again. Motam and wako, to wash it again, to rebaptize. That's what they're calling that. That's why they call it motam and wako. It's not required as far as the Catholic Church goes, but it's something that that ODHAM do, and especially the Sonoran Church. Our family was never really into that, except for some of my cousins who had influence from other communities where their other parents were from. So they would do that. But we never really did it actually like our family. Just when a medicine person would say, then they would do that. My grandfather used to say, Father did the baptism, and I guess he didn't do it right because they're going to do another one. And yet, good HETASP. But again, in the church, that's why it's really important to choose the right godparents. Don't choose your friends. Don't choose your best friend to be the godparent. That's job, because one day there's a lot of people that they choose their best friends, and then all of a sudden they get in a fight at the fiesta or whatever. And there are a lot of these young couples, the mother will come or the father will come. Can we choose another baptism? Can we do it again? Because that one, we don't like her anymore. Okay? No, you can't. You can't. Again, so that the church baptism, once you do it, they're just witnesses. Okay? And what is a godparent? As far as I'm understanding either this thing, a godparent is the one who sets the example. He or she is the one that the child watches while they're growing up, and they see, okay, they're doing this, so I'm going to follow that lead. I'm going to take them as kind of like the role model. That's how a godparent is supposed to be. They're not supposed to be the one to buy to do a party every year for the child. It's not like that. It's not like you have to give them money or anything. There's none of that stuff, but I think people don't understand it. Like sometimes church come talk, but really it's just to be an example and to be there for the child or the parents if they need to talk to somebody, or if they need some kind of comfort or some kind of advice. Those are the main things that the godparent is supposed to be there for. I know people they have like a lot of godparents. I guess masapa but that's again, like I said, as far as the church is concerned, that's all you need is just that one. And if they break apart, you gotta figure out. Follow do as they say, but don't do as they do. Sometimes. But so again, and it's good to have the same kids with the same godparents. Sometimes with a mix, and that's okay if that's what your family does. But when we're that just out of experience, I've seen a lot of things happen. Strike to the God because of that. They don't understand yet until they get older. So that's Suki, and that's why they call that the godparent Pauline, the father, but the mother they call her Yatad. Again, ODHAM IHMIG, whereas the other one is a Mexican variation of Mexican Padrino, so they call it the Pauline. So those are the two. There's another one that people use a lot. It's called Comari, or Nyekompad. Nyekompad is your father's side, your godparent. Kompad. Comari is your mother's side. That's more of the ODHAM, what do you call it? As far as godparent is, or something like godparent. We didn't have that kind of godparents. Everybody was just everybody's mother and father. So okay, kompad, and sometimes you hear comari. And like I said, comari is like the same thing, but it's kind of like that's the IHMIG, comari. But a lot of people that get drunk and they come to you, and sometimes they want something, mostly money. I heard that a lot of times. Mostly women will be someplace in town, and some lady will be walking around drunk, and she's comari, come here, oh, $5. Beer, gosh, $5, $10, $20, whatever, comari. Give them the money, comari. You don't hear that when they're not intoxicated, but when they are, So again, that's what they're saying. It's my god sister, god brother, godparent. That's what they're the kind of like the English version of that is. So that's that. Yatat, Komari, Kompar. There's another thing that I think Dean Saxton brought in, because I don't see any place in the older writings and in the older ODHAM how do you say words that they call a stepchild. And in that book I saw that it says kushp, which is just the literal word for step. Well, kushp. So that I'm assuming that's why they call it kushp. So if you have a stepchild, then you're supposed to, or that's how ODHAM nowadays would say kushp. But a long time we would just call them and a lot of times it's not blood related, but people know that sometimes we'll still call them that. But actually the IHMIG, as far as the relationship, the father-mother side, that's generally blood relationships, blood. But there are people that that were born into a family that they still call them that IHMIG, but even though they're not really. And later on you'll hear, did you see that guy? He's got a nose that's longer, and those guys, their nose is kind of like an eagle. It's kind of, those that they're not related. That's why. But they call them, they call them tata. No, they're not. That has a different father. That boy, the different father or different mother, but they're taking care of him. That's why they say that. So you hear those stories after, and you kind of notice differences in people's appearance. So those things. There's other different IHMIG that people use that are just whatever. There's one that they call bahi, and the bahi is the word for tail. So if you have a tail, you have a bahi. So sometimes somebody follows you around all over the place, then patigam pahi, you know. So you walk someplace and they're not with you, and patigam pahi, you know, here's that person that's usually with you all the time. They're not with you. Can pati, you know, pahi, can buy. And in some communities they'll say, mag-at kiatak. Your at is your butt, your posterior, your derriere. Your at kiatak is the hook, or the like if you get a rope and you tie it on there and you pull it, kiatak. You know, that's something that is holding on to you. So it's the same thing like a tail, you know, like a dog. Tail's in the back. So at kiatak is the same thing because the tail is in the back of the dog or the horse. Kau yu bahi. Kau yu bahi, kau yu kiatak, you know, that's where they tie, you know. So again, it's kind of like a rope. So sometimes if there's a friend that you have and they're always around with you wherever you go, whatever you do, and people notice that they might call them, they go, you know, go out together. They're always together, you know, and either way, vice versa. There are some other small little things that communities have that kind of come and go. There is a thing that San Javier used to say a long time ago, and then over here on the main reservation, the South Reservation, started to say it, and I even heard it in Gila Band. But it kind of died down now, and I haven't heard it for a long time. Just like maybe 2 months ago, somebody said that, and it kind of scared me because I didn't hear it for a long time. But usually, if you hear somebody say this word for their father, you already assumed right now that they're from San Javier, or they got that word from San Javier, because generally in Wak, that's what they said. And they would call your father your Ditchk, Patigam Ditchk. And I like, oh, my dad. And, you know, like that. And so, Ditchk. And again, that's something that really they don't use anymore. So again, that's those how do you say, your just people that make up stuff because they're what do you call it, that's the way it looks, or the description. So that's what IHMIG is, what you refer to somebody and back, how is the relationship. And again, it doesn't mean all my relatives, it doesn't mean my relations, you know, like some people say in the Native American church, all my relations. That's not what the word means. It means that relationship between you and another person. So again, in the ODHAM world, it's that philia love, people that you know, how you're related to somebody. So I can say to my brothers, Ninawach, my sisters, Niuika, or you can call them Niwunak, Niwupanak, or you can say Nishi and Shrewsbridge, you know, because of that. But that they would know that that's my relations. But who am I talking about? Yeah, my brothers and sisters, but also my cousins, because there's no word for cousin. So all those things like that, Manipkajan, the 1, 2, 3, 4 other videos before that. So this is number 5, and this would take it to that. But there's other IHMIG that I haven't mentioned. Probably didn't want to because I might scare somebody and get myself thrown off of YouTube or something. But people will know, and then you can talk to them. If somebody says something, you know, and says some kind of IHMIG, you know, ask them, what does that mean? Remember it, and then make sure you use it. Again, with the IHMIG, you're using it, chamuk it, or else it's going to disappear like everything else is disappearing. All the tribal, the customs, the dances, the ceremonies, even the language is disappearing. And the only way to really keep it alive is to use it. So yeah, if there's any questions, email me or whatever. Okay, pick a shower. Get the shower. All right, good morning.